Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk about my quarterly check-in. So today I'm showing you all of the books that I read in these past 3 months and talking to you about my 5 favorite that I read in that quarter. I got this idea from Reagan over at Peruse Project, and I really love the thought of that, just to have like a little progress report for yourself to see like what books you read in the past 3 months and what books were your favorite out of those 3 months. So I did one that involved the months of January, February, and March. So this video is going to talk about all the books that I read in April, May, and June. So it was a pretty good reading quarter for me, I'd say. I'm going to technically call this like my spring reading quarter because it is spring, even though at the very tail end of June introduced summer. But either way, I'm going to show you all of the books that I read in these past 3 months and tell you my 5 favorite that I read, which I already know is going to be really tough to narrow down. So starting off in April, I read 7 books in April, and those were Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett, which I gave a 4 out of 5. Miss Me When I'm Gone by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which I gave 4.5 out of 5. The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, which I gave a 5 out of 5. Wind in the Window by A.G. Finn, which I gave a 2 out of 5 to. Of Hearts by Kimberly Martin, which I gave a 3.75. And lastly, Circe by Madeline Miller, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 to. Moving into May, I read 11 books in May. So usually when it gets closer to summer, I tend to read a lot more for some reason. So the books I read in May are Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch, which I gave a 3 out of 5. 9 Days and 9 Nights by Katie Cotugno, which I gave a 4 out of 5. On the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, which I gave a 4.5. Story Life of A.G. Fikri, I always say it wrong, by Gabrielle Zevin, which I gave a 4. Miss Parish by Liv Constantine, which I gave a 3 out of 5. Little Do We Know by Tamaya Erlin Stone, which I gave a 4.5. Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, which I gave a 3.75 out of 5. Always Never Yours by Emily Sigmund Broca, and another author, I forget the name, I gave that a 3.5 out of 5. Lastly, in May, I read a series, I don't know what to call it technically, Beartown by Frederick Bachman, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. And then Us Against You, also by Frederick Bachman, which I gave like a 4.25 out of 5. So yeah, I guess this is the end of the series, I believe. So I guess it's a series, I don't know. And lastly, for June, I read a whopping total of 10 books in June. Reading has definitely gone up this year. Those are Children of Blood and Bone by Ami Adeyemi, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Reborn by Claire Legrand, which I gave a 4 out of 5. Princess by Lauren Sebastian, which I gave 3.75, maybe closer to 4. How to Walk Away by Catherine Center, which I gave a 3.5. Twinkle with Love by Sanan Menon, which I also gave a 3.5. Save the Date by Morgan Matson, which I gave a 3.75. I know we're getting really technical. My Oxford Year by Julia Whelan, which I gave a 3.75 as well. Listen to Your Heart by Casey West, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, which I also gave a 4.5. Lastly, Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir, which I gave 4.5. I'm just gonna go ahead and say 5 out of 5 because this book, holy crap. I'm gonna pick my 5 now. I only really made my list of what books I read. I forgot to write down my favorite 5, so we're gonna, like, this is real life. Like, we're gonna think about this. So first of all, I'm just gonna say these are in no order. I'm gonna say they're just my 5 favorite that I read this quarter. I'm gonna put these as 1 because they're part of a series. It's the Beartown series by Frederick Bachman. I've been raving about these recently on my channel. I just love this series. It's so amazing. This is an adult literary fiction series about this town called Beartown, and it's about like their ice hockey team, and a lot of things happen within this town. It's not just about ice hockey, it's more about the people in the town. It is a very intense, hard-hitting series. There's a lot of really triggering things in it, like rape and accusations, slut-shaming, homophobia. There's so many really just hard things to read about, but Frederick Bachman writes them so well, and it's just, there are characters you're gonna fall in love with the series, and there's characters that you really just despise a lot. This book, the series will stick with me for a while. I love these, cannot recommend them enough. Just like, you know, have a lighter book on the back burner after you finish this, because you're gonna need it, because your heart's just gonna be like, what's going on? Also, my most recently finished book is A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I love this. This is the 3rd book in the Ember and the Ashes series. It's a YA fantasy series that's kind of all about, I'm sorry, the sun is switching up a lot. It's like kind of a gruesome Roman Empire where you have people that are kind of evil in this kingdom, and you have people that are trying to have a resistance, and we follow 3 characters in this series, and they're all on very different paths, but they're all intertwining together, and it's just an amazing series. I loved the first book. I did really enjoy the second one. There were some parts I didn't love about it. And this one I loved just as much. I love this series. That's one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. You never know what's going to happen. It's always very intense. Things are not always cookie cutter in this fantasy series, because sometimes that happens in some fantasy series where everything wraps up or everything's going very nicely. But this one, like, you never know what's coming and it just rips your heart out, and the ending, oh, just so amazing. Like, every time I read one of her books again in this series, I'm reminded of how much I love it. So, I mean, I know this book is hyped up a lot, especially because it just came out, but I've loved it ever since Ember and the Ashes started, like 4 years ago now, I think. Yes, I think I read that the year my son was born or the year after, so it's been a while. Now to lighten things up, because I talked about such an intense adult book, then I talked about a really gripping YA fantasy, I'm going to talk about The Kiss Quote by Helena Huang. This is an adult, steamy book, and I loved it. It was so amazing. A woman that has Asperger's, and she decides to hire a male escort to teach her kind of about sexual things, and it's just, I mean, like I said with YA fantasy, sometimes they're cookie cutter. This one's definitely cookie cutter. Like, everything happens so nicely and stuff, but with these type of books, I'm kind of just going into wanting that. Like, I'd say this is like a perfect book to read after Beartown, because it's going to lighten your spirits, but I just loved it. I loved the characters, I loved the steaminess. It was just, oh, so adorable. Except, of course, I have to mention this because, so amazing. The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is my second Kristen Hanna book. The first quarter of this whole video I talked about, I read The Nightingale, was on that list. Another book, I'm reading another one of her books for the third quarter of the year, so she will just have a trend on staying on my, like, favorites. This one takes place in 1974. It's about Alaska. It's about this family that moves to, like, the final frontier in Alaska, like a very remote part of Alaska, and it's about them surviving the harsh, like, weather and things like that in Alaska, but the harshness is really inside of their home. Kristen Hanna writes beautifully. It's about a broken family, and it's a hard book to read, but it's beautiful. This one made me sob at the end. Who's surprised? Not me at all, but I loved every second of it. So, I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with a Kristen Hanna book, but it's only my second one, but I just want to read all of her books. There's only a few 5 stars I read this quarter. There wasn't a lot, you know, to really narrow down. There are a lot of, like, 4.5 stars I've read, so it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Last spot, I'm gonna give it the 2 books, because why not? It's my channel. I'm just gonna cheat. I feel like they're very similar in genre and kind of what the books are about, and I think they're both highly underrated, so that's why I want to mention them. The first one is Little Do We Know by Tamaya Erwin Stone. This is a YA contemporary novel, which I fell in love with. Read it on a whim, loved it. It's about these 2 friends that were bestest of friends, and then something's happened to them, and they haven't talked, and it talks a lot of, it's a quiet contemporary. And I say that because there's not a lot of plot that happens. There's not a lot of jarring things. It's more about the characters. I fell in love with it. Would highly, highly recommend it. The other one is You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Another serious, I wouldn't say quiet, because it's very kind of a sad contemporary. It's about these 2 twins. Her mother has Huntington's disease, and they decide to get tested for Huntington's disease, and basically one of them has it and one of them doesn't, and it really deters, like, you know, their future. And also, they're twins, but they're not best friends. They're not close at all. So these 2 are similar, where we have 2 characters that used to be really close and something has driven them apart. So it's kind of getting back to that and learning more about it. I loved both of these. Not a lot of people talk about them, so please read them. They were amazing. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I read this quarter. Looking at the stack, it's a lot. 2018 is going great for me for reading wise. I feel like not only that I'm reading a lot, like I'm reading a lot of quantity, but I'm also reading a lot of quality. There are a lot of books that I've read this year that I loved. I also love that when I look at this pile, it's quite, you know, different in genres. There are a lot of YA contemporaries, because I love those, but there's a lot of YA fantasy. There's a lot of adult literary fiction. There's some mystery thrillers. There's some chick lit. There's some, you know, other things. So I have a whole plethora of genres I feel like I'm reading from this year. I'm not just staying in my concentric circle. I'm kind of breaking out of that this year, and I'm really enjoying that I'm doing that, because I feel like I can't say, like, this year I'm a YA reader 100%. No, I think I read all of the things, and I love that. So I think 2018, it's going to be really exciting, especially at the end of the year when I have to make up my favorites list. Oh, that's going to be tough. But see you guys at the end of September for my 3rd quarter wrap up, which I can already tell it's going to be tough, because I think there's going to be a lot of books in September that are coming out that are really going to wow me. I hope so, at least. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit thumbs up, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.